Vision impairment or loss of eyesight due to accidents, chemical burns or abuse could be quite a painful and traumatic experience. Yet, the majority of the poor in our country neglect their eye problems due to the high cost of the treatments. So today we introduce you to an outstanding women scientist who has done some indigenous work and has prevented a number of people from going blind. Let us move over to her lab. She is a rare combination of a pathologist and a scientist rolled into one. She was trained in general pathology and later specialized in the pathology of the eye. Moved by the increasing number of cases involving eye accidents, especially those of children, she seriously began to wonder, why not do something and save their eyes from going blind? In April 2001, she and her team made ripples by coming up with a unique technique of culturing corneal epithelium. Meet Dr. Geeta Kashyap Vemuganti, an ocular pathologist and the head of Ophthalmic Pathology Service and Stem Cell Laboratory at the LV Prasad Eye Institute or LVPEI, Hyderabad, on how she discovered the scientist in her.
While I was doing pathology, I was interested in mostly tumor pathology, and I was while I was in general pathology also, one of my specialties was oncopathology. And even after I took up ocular pathology, I had a chance to continue with my oncopathology preference. And here we deal with a lot of eye tumors, and one of them is a retinoblastoma. And it's very touching because it affects the children. I wanted to do something in this field. So I learned to do cell cultures. We were trying to create cell cultures from retinoblastoma patients. I had standardized this technique of cell cultures. And it just happened over a cup of tea with my colleague who just threw up a challenging question at me. Why are you doing this cell cultures for tumors when you know that it's an end stage? Why don't you do it for some patients whom we know that they're suffering from a disease called as limbal stem cell deficiency? By that time there were a few published papers from some groups who had worked on stem cells. And my colleague, just Virendra Sangwan, he just challenged me. He says the challenge lies in treating these patients who are young, who are suffering from a very simple disease called chemical burns. We can help these patients, and I think we should work on these lines. So, and I very seriously took that suggestion, and I said yes, why not? And I spent some time reviewing the literature, and I went through the published papers, and then in short time we came up with a proposal that we would like to culture the stem cells from the limbal tissue.
Adult stem cells are found in the limbus, a part of the eye which regenerates the ocular surface of the cornea. Conditions such as chemical burns damage the limbus, resulting in limbal stem cell deficiency, characterized by corneal scarring leading to corneal blindness. The treatment of this condition is to replenish the damaged limbal stem cells by limbal tissue transplantation, followed by corneal transplantation. This process neither involves embryonic tissue nor aborted fetuses.
We take a limbal tissue which is known to harbor the stem cells. We don't isolate the stem cells as in the form of a cell. We take the tissue which is known to harbor the stem cells. We use an appropriate vehicle, what we call as a substrate, and we then make the cells grow on this membrane using the appropriate media. And once these cells grow, they make a big epithelium. So from 1 millimeter of tissue, we have a big epithelium which can be used for patients. So if a patient is suffering from a disease of one eye, if one eye is affected by limbal stem cell deficiency, we harvest a little bit of tissue from the healthy eye, expand it, make a membrane, give it to the diseased eye. That's in principle what we do.
The cultured stem cells could be from the patient's own healthy eye or from another person's, living or dead. 80% of the cases reported at the LV Prasad Eye Institute are of patients due to chemical burns. The work on stem cell transplantation was initiated at the LV Prasad Eye Institute following the lead taken by other groups worldwide. By the end of 2001, Dr. Geeta and her team's clinical experience led them to develop another new technique called composite culture for the first time in the world. How different is her work when compared to the rest of the world?
Now, there was already a precedence, so we started our work based on the published literature. But while we were dealing with these patients, we came across some new problems which probably were not seen elsewhere in the world. We saw patients who had very severe ocular surface disease, which was affecting not only the central part of the cornea and the limbus, but it was also affecting the surrounding conjunctiva. And that was the more severe form of the disease. So my colleague, while we were interacting and discussing the results of the initial studies, we realized that there was a need to grow the conjunctival stem cells as well. And that led us to another small project where we started growing the conjunctival cells. Then there was a need to put them together, and that was one of the most challenging things, and that's something novel about our study. What we did was we took these two types of tissues and put them on a single membrane, and exactly the way it is present in nature, the central corneal and limbal cells, the periphery conjunctival. And one interesting question we faced was, how do we separate the two? Then again we took the clue from the nature, and we thought if the limbus is circular, so anything which divides these two cells should be circular. Then we came up with this idea that why not use a ring barrier? Then we created a ring barrier, we got it designed, and we put the limbal cells in the center, conjunctiva at the periphery. So that gave us a very good advantage. So we had one membrane with two types of cells. And on one, so it's for the surgeon to use it for clinical application was a very easy thing. So this is something which has come up novel in our study, and I guess because nobody sees the patients like this the way we do, and that prompted us to create this what we now call it as a composite culture or a co-culture of limbal cells and the conjunctival cells.
In the last 2.5 years, Geeta and her team generated hundreds of limbal and conjunctival cultures which were transplanted to more than 160 patients suffering from severe ocular surface diseases. The interim results showed clinical success in 75 to 80% of the patients at 1 year follow-up.
The day I saw my cells, the first picture of the cells growing, we really celebrated. And then it was followed by when the patient was recovered, the patient regained vision after this transplantation. That was a very rewarding moment for the whole team actually.
Ocular oncology is a nascent but rapidly developing subspecialty of ophthalmology that deals with tumors of the eye, eyelids, orbit and the adnexa. India accounts for over 20% of eye cancers worldwide, but has only 5% of the world's infrastructure and trained manpower to manage them.
We get a lot of tumors. In fact, this institute has a maximum number of specimens of ocular pathology coming to the department, and now we have crossed a magic number of 2,000 per year. And we get tumors of the eye, of the lid, of the orbit, various types of specimens which are removed from the eye that come to my department. And I diagnose all these lesions, and whatever interesting question comes out of this study, we take it up as a research topic, and I continue to work on that. That's how I'm developing this subspecialty of ocular pathology.
Dr. Geeta secured her MBBS from the JLN Medical College, Ajmer in 1985. Unfortunately, her dream of becoming a pediatrician went topsy-turvy when she got married and had to discontinue.
I did think of becoming a pediatrician, but after MBBS what happened was I got married during my internship, and I did get my pediatrics, which I always wanted to do. But because of my new status now, and I had moved from north to south, and this caused a lot of disturbance in my mental frame and even my family life. So I didn't want to stay in Ajmer and continue for 3 more years as in my pediatrics. I wanted to be with my family and gel with the new family. And that's the reason I gave up. And then I settled down in Hyderabad and planning to take up another specialty, the second choice, which was pathology. And that's how I ended up doing my post-graduation in pathology.
At that point of time, judging by the family situation, pathology was her second choice. In 1993, she got her MD Pathology from the Nizam's Institute of Medical Sciences at Hyderabad, where she could establish her link at LV Prasad Eye Institute.
I joined NIMS to take up DNB, And meanwhile, my professor, Dr. Ratnakar, wanted me to take up ocular pathology. So I joined the MD program at Nizam's, and during my residency, ocular pathology was my specialty, and my thesis was in ocular pathology actually. And that's how I got trained into ocular pathology.
She also received another degree, DNB Pathology, in 1994 from New Delhi. For more than 4 years, she worked as a consultant pathologist at Medvin Hospitals, Hyderabad, focusing mostly on oncopathology. Soon after, she took over the pathology department at the behest of Dr. G.N. Rao, the present director of L.V. Prasad Eye Institute, and since then, there was no looking back. Dr. D. Balasubramanian, Director of Research, has some very encouraging things to tell about her.
Dr. Geeta Kashyap came and joined us here about 5.5 years ago, and we took her because she is rigorous, methodical, is willing to be, what shall I say, she is willing to repeat things unless it becomes quite all right and so on. In other words, she has this penchant to be of high quality. She has also bloomed as a scientist, largely because of her own independent drive. She is willing to cooperate very well, and I think it's a tribute that she has been able to get competitive research grants. Obviously, as a person, she is pleasant, easy to work with, but she is tough. She is tough on her students, and she is also tough on herself.
She not only got the opportunity to head the diagnostics, but also to be in the academics as well. 60% of her time goes to pathology, her first love, and the rest goes for research.
I start with my reporting. That's the first thing I would like to do in the morning. And after finishing my reporting, which takes about 2 hours, I dictate the reports and then break for a cup of tea. Then I get back to diagnosing those lesions, again looking back at the reports. And meanwhile, if there is any operating room which is busy, and if I have cases for frozen sections, I give the diagnosis on frozen tissues. And sometimes I do FNACs of, it's called fine needle aspiration cytology, which is nothing but taking out some blood or cells from a lump in some patients. And sometimes I'm called to do a bone marrow aspiration from some patients who are suffering from some tumors. And then I keep going to my research work. I have some students here, about 6 students who work with me and 1 postdoc. And I keep going to the research lab and help them with I look at the cells and other tissues and I monitor those things.
Dr. Geeta has to her credit about 45 publications in both national and international journals. Her paper on rapid intraoperative of orbital and ocular lesions by squash and imprint cytology received the attention of the American Academy of Ophthalmology News Update in the year 2002 and has also been accepted for publication by the prestigious journal Ophthalmology. She got the opportunity to visit many parts of the world, including USA, UK and Europe. She presented papers at the American Academy of Ophthalmology and the American Academy of Ophthalmic Pathology, and was also invited to give lectures at many centers in USA and Scotland, mostly on the techniques of culturing limbal epithelium. When abroad, she also gets to learn new techniques in cell biology and also the opportunity to establish a network for future collaborations. L.V. Prasad Eye Institute has provided her with space for a new stem cell research lab named after Sudhakar and Srikant Ravi, who liberally donated $100,000 for stem cell research. The Stem Cell Lab has recently acquired a confocal microscope facility that gives a 3-dimensional imaging of test samples.
The work is so satisfying that it's worth putting all this extra efforts, and anything worth it, you have to pay a little price. And it's nothing compared to the satisfaction that we get working here.
This premier eye hospital, apart from providing consistent services in all areas of eye care, Its unique state-of-the-art facility has other wings like product development, community care, rehabilitation, eye research and education. According to data collected by the L.V. Prasad Eye Institute from various sources including the WHO, one child becomes blind every minute and one person loses his sight every second. There are 45 million blind people in the world today, including 10 million in India alone. It is now a collaborative center with WHO for the Mission 2020 Right to Sight. The secret behind Geeta's phenomenal success is her husband, who has been a strong pillar of support when she was trying to balance her home and career interspersed with difficult pregnancies.
The support has been there right through. It's more of a mutual support and it's not a one-way traffic kind of a scene. And that way the whole thing has worked out much better. And it's gone much beyond expectations, my expectations overall. And the sheer commitment and the dedication and the work, the way she was involved day in and day out. I never expected this kind of a success in such a short period.
As soon as I get back home, I just mentally switch off from the work and I wait for my children to come and I spend a lot of time with them. I also have my in-laws downstairs with whom I have a very close rapport, and we sit and discuss, and we do socialize a lot. And 2 or 3 times in a week I go to my daughter's dance class, and I enjoy sitting there watching these children perform. That's relaxation for me. I listen to music and playing with my dog. I think that relaxes me a lot.
Dr. Geeta is proud of her son Akshay, who has a passion for music, and her daughter Ashrita, a debutante in Bhattanatyam, recently gave her first solo public performance.
Seeing my mother as a doctor, I feel I can do something more than that. I can achieve more than that. And dance being my main focus, I will always hold a dance center, having only a class of my own. I like civil services, I like mass communications. So these are my 2 likings, so I have to decide which one I have to take.
Dr. Geeta's long-term goal or future research is to make retinal cells to treat patients from blinding retinal diseases to restore back the eyesight.
If you get self-confidence and courage, I think then the best comes out of you.
By making use of the available facilities, encouragement and excellent teamwork at the L.V. Prasad Eye Institute, Dr. Geeta could successfully nurture her scientific talent to carry out the path-breaking research you have just seen. She is a lady who has this never-say-die attitude towards life and work, and our country needs many more women scientists like her. We wish her lots of luck.